I couldn't really get a grip on what had happened to Bob over at the Institute. I was told it was no exaggeration to say that a fair number of people had expressed dissatisfaction with his manner, or should I say personality, his way with people, his way with words. He seemed to have fallen between two thorns. Some perceived him as prickly, others as just a prick. In trying to find out what had happened, I chose to pursue my curiosity without speaking to him, because this was the tried and tested, ethically approved way to accumulate the greatest amount of speculation, gossip, hearsay, and create from that a mosaic of information that may have no basis in fact, but which, all the same, would allow me to pursue my fancy as far up my own posterior aperture as I might wish to travel. Because the question for everyone is, whether rightly or wrongly, how can you live with yourself? And if you don't know the answer, don't worry, because the writing on the wall for this week's episode of Unspoken Words, the series that reflects on a single word and what a single word can inspire, spells out the word ethics. To find out more about the trouble with Bob, I invited a friend who worked at the Institute out for a drink. But that didn't help, as he turned out to double up as a union rep, and, so he said, couldn't possibly comment, not even to an independent, I just want to talk about it on the radio, mouth jockey like myself. But then, if he had, even I would have felt obliged not to talk about it, to do the right thing ethically, an internal struggle between freedom of information and, trust me, I'm a journalist, which, in my own mind and in my own heart, I often have to wrestle with. While at the same time, I feel that even a smidgen of information might be enough to quench my curiosity and return the sword of truth to its protective scabbard, and quell my restless quest for the latest gossip, innuendo, and, what's that other thing? Oh yeah, finding out what actually happened, I guess. Whichever way it went with what the story was with Bob, years of experience has helped me to realize that it is not the what happened that matters so much. It's my desire to know what happened which spurs me on. And so it was not so much the consequence of Bob's actions that I wanted to resolve. It was, as ever, me that I was interested in, and Bob's plight was, in a sense, only in orbit around me, interfering slightly with my gravitational energies, pulling me into a more elliptic and erratic path than I was used to. So I needed to go there, so to speak, to be there for him, to let him know that anything he needed, anything at all, I would, do something or other. I don't know. And even that was just a way of saying, look, Bob, if there's any more dirt, if there's anything else you want to tell me, your friend, Mr. Lips Are Sealed, Mr. Name, Rank, and Serial Number Only, Mr. You ain't getting nothing out of me, copper, then come to me, Bob. Come to me. Not that I am in any position to preach about propriety, morals, ethical behavior, or how to work your way into heaven. My only hope is that there are ticket touts hanging around outside the pearly gates. Who's looking for tickets? I got a pair, a 10th row aisle, a pair, $3,000 a pair. Who's looking for tickets? When they're gone, they're gone. Who's looking for a pair of tickets? Sit together in heaven for all eternity. Get your tickets to heaven, $3,000 a pair. There was another thing about Bob. I mean, the reason I felt some affinity with him, a kind of closeness, whatever. Even though he was a surfer boy from Cali, and I grew up playing road hockey in the Great White North, We somehow hit it off as fellow North Americans one night, over a bottle of Japanese Scotch whiskey and some wasabi-soaked sushi delicacy on the Cornish Riviera. Oh! Anyway, whatever had happened at the Institute, my informant, the union rep with the inside information, wasn't playing the great game. He was no Smiley to my fat controller. He was no Philby. He was no Kirby. He was no McLean. He was no 007. He was no Bourne Conspiracy. He just wasn't going to put any juice in my tank. The gossip mill was dry. And meanwhile, the clouds of secrecy and time were busy muddying any remaining tracks. Luckily, he had brought a friend who happened to work at the same institute, where, like so many places, many employees are outsourced and actually work for someone else in an unaccountable private-public partnership tradition that somehow the people who called themselves socialists decided would be the best way of educating the masses. So now every institute is like a modern department shop floor, where things like the perfume stalls are rented out by the square foot of floor space to the highest bidder, making them like three-dimensional billboards that actually have real people in them, creating environments which are more advertising than choice. In fact, advertising is the new choice. Anyway, this other guy from the Institute, we'll call him Spy B, or Spy Plus, maybe. I can't say Spy Plus HD because I've only got Freeview, so I can only say that ethically I'm clean in that I'm not paying for the information, and I can't reveal my sources as they're scrambled and I can only get certain channels. But you know what? Paying the license fee already bumps me into overdraft,